Good morning. The session that you are attending today is called Bullying, Breaking the Code, and this session will be videotaped. I am going to be asking for some volunteers, so I want you to think about that as I go through what the program is about, and think about if you would be willing to be a volunteer. It's a demonstration of the scenarios that are available within this program. Bullying, Breaking the Code was designed and researched by the University of Illinois, the University of Illinois Extension offices, and some other key people. This is not my own program. This is something that we have used in the schools that I have worked in. And so it was something I wanted to share with you if it's a possibility that you would like to use. It can be used within schools. It can be used in small group settings. It can be used in after-school programs. It is targeted towards middle school and high school age students. They dedicated it to the youth and educators in order to recognize the silent code that's involved within bullying of students. The acknowledgments, again, this is not mine, so I want to give acknowledgments to the people. I'm not going to go through all the names, but the very first name there, Ken Bradbury, is a retired teacher. He's also a playwright, and he was originally from the Jacksonville area where I currently work, and so it was nice because he actually did the training with us. He was the one that was there and working through the scenarios with us, so I would like to give credit to Mr. Bradbury. Other acknowledgments are some of the key people that work with the University of Illinois Extension office. And additional acknowledgments. Okay, if you do decide you want to use this program, it will give you an overview of the program and how you are to go through it all and learn how to implement it. We'll give you the facilitation helps and guides. We'll also give you an introduction for each scenario. And they set up 8 different scenarios. Scenario 1 is the hallway locker room situation, and it deals with verbal aggression. Scenario 2 is cyberbullying in a PE situation, and it is verbal aggression. Scenario 3 is fashion exclusion, and it's verbal and relational aggression. Scenario 4 is a lunchroom exclusion, and it is relational aggression. Scenario 5 is locker damage, and it's physical bullying. Scenario 6 is a party situation with verbal and relational cyberbullying. Scenario 7 is a younger student with physical aggression. And scenario 8 is the loner, and this is involved with verbal and relational aggression. And then it also gives you all the handouts and all the miscellaneous. And again, we'll go through how this is set up. Okay? It really is just people knowing that we have an issue with bullying. And I can give you a lot of facts. Things haven't changed. Kids are targeted for a lot of different reasons. Schools are all different. So it is a very flexible program that you can use within your schools to adapt it to the needs of your culture and your environment. But it is, everyone thinks that kids pretty much understand, oh, you know what a bully is, you know what a bystander is. We tell you not to do it, and we hope that you understand what we mean by not doing it. But this is actually setting up scenarios where they're visually seeing the situation as it happens and see how they relate to those situations. It is research-based, so they do insert facts throughout the scenarios that you can also give to them, and you'll see that as we go through some of the scenarios. They did try to make it, because I know a lot of times when I'm working with high schoolers and how did you react or what did you say or what can you do, they're like, nobody talks like that when you say, well, could you do this? And so the nice thing about it was they tried and they worked with students to say, well, how do they talk and what do they say back and what kind of things can you see a teenager doing? And the objective is that they will understand the power of their own decisions and how that plays into bullying situations, that they will identify options for responding to the bullying situations, and they will be motivated to take a And that's the one that I like the best about this program, because a lot of kids will say, well, if I do that, then I'll be the next one. I'll be the next target. I'm not going to get involved. And so it's helping them to understand by not getting involved, you keep that pecking order, that code, still in place in your school. Again, the purpose is to impact the belief and the attitude and to change the culture within the school and to provide supports to those who are bullied and even bystanders, because bystanders can be just as traumatized when they see things and have a fear that now it's going to happen to me and what can I do or who can I go to and things like that. And again, it's encouraging students to take a stand. Okay, so in the scenarios, it covers the 8 scenarios, and you would have a maximum of 12. The last one, the 8th scenario, has 12 characters that play in that scenario. So that is the biggest scenario of them all, is number 8. So maximum of 12. And the students are given a script. They follow the script, and then they are given a choice. They can say, okay, I want to make my own choice. And they can say what that choice would be, or they can draw from a decision card, and then that's the choice that's in place, and then you talk about how that decision affected the situation. Again, there are consequences or decisions. There are consequences for the decisions that they make, and those are also represented by the different cards, and it's kind of, you'll see it as it's an, trying to hurry, sorry. You'll see it as it unfolds, so it'll make more sense than me just trying to run through it. But they also are giving cards. And then if you have a larger class, we've done this in our freshman advisory classes, and obviously our advisory is about 20 to 25 students. So obviously not everyone's going to be part of the scenario. So you give them, and one of your handouts you was given is a scenario sheet. And they can follow along, and they can write down what the character actually did and what they would have done, or if they would have done the same thing. So they can interact also. And you also give them time. You always do discussion at the end. You never ever leave the discussion out. So they're part of that discussion also. Again, the goal is to help them to understand the climate, because sometimes they're like, I know I'm living it, but I don't really understand it. And it helps them to understand their climate and then to help change their environment. Again, you can use it up to a classroom of 25. They suggest no more than that. And a maximum of 12 active participants. You were also given a handout of the pre and post. So you have them take the pre, and it says on the front sheet, take this before the scenario, and then after the scenario you have them flip it over and they take the post test. So you get feedback on both the pre and the post test. You get your facilitation guide. It has participant name tags, so they'll wear their name tag of who they are. My assistant facilitator, who will dispense the cards out to the actors. And the layout design, as you know right now, we have some chairs up here for our layout design, and then your guided discussion, and that's all part of the packet. It is based on these facts. Bullying occurs where there is an imbalance of power, and that is the power they're trying to demonstrate to the students within this scenario, and how they either break the code in that power or how they continue to support that power. The types of bullying that they cover are physical, verbal, aggressional, and relational. The most common places for bullying, as we know, are the unsupervised areas. So things like your PE locker rooms, your hallways, the lunchroom, where there's large amounts of students, lots of activity, and they can't always hear or catch everything. And the fact that the targets of bullies are repeatedly exposed to these negative actions. And that's one thing that I find is a lot of parents call and say, my child is bullied and no one's doing anything. No one's doing anything, and it just happens over and over and over and over again. And so this is also saying, we are trying to take care of the situation. We are aware of what's happening with your child. We're giving your child options. We're giving your child suggestions. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we don't know it's happening until it's gotten so bad that the student doesn't want to come to school anymore, or completely breaks down or retaliates. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And so a nice thing about this program also is letting your parents know, we're going to implement this program, and this is why, and talk to your child, find out where your child stands in the code. This is the unwritten code that everyone knows where they're at in the hierarchy. And talk to your child about that. And say, we don't want these things to continuously happen to you. So we want you to be able to work with your child as we work with your child also. Okay, other components are that they're often loners. The targets are often loners. That one friend, one person can make a difference. And some people will think, no, if I stand up, it won't matter. They will find that they got support from someone, and they won't feel so alone, and that one person can make a difference. And that's something that we really, really stress to the kids, is in order to break this code and change your culture, the one person has to start standing up, and then you'll see the power shift. Bystanders can either hinder or stop the bullying. We never ever suggest to our students, if there's a fight, to get in and break up the fight. We always tell those students, get an adult for help immediately. We're not talking about someone being physically bullied, but we are saying run for help. I don't know about in your schools, and this is very disturbing to me. In our schools, if there's a fight, they're all very quiet. Does that happen in any of your schools? Okay, this is really, because when I was growing up, if there was a fight, everyone starts yelling, fight, 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 and they may get 1 or 2 punches in before it's broken up. These kids want to see them get beat to a pulp. They will stand there and videotape it and put it out on social media. They're very, very quiet. Nobody talks, so this fight can go on as long as possible. And to me, that's a very sick culture. And that's the thing we've been talking about. If you were the one that was getting beat on, would you want someone to go get help for you? So, unfortunately, we've seen that in our school that we have to deal with at this point in time. The longer bullies continue the behavior, the more they will do it, and sometimes it will become worse. Often it becomes worse. So the longer they are allowed to do it and nothing happens to them, they will consistently do it, and often the bullying becomes worse. And social responsible behavior can be fostered by providing clear guidelines and actions about reporting bullying. And they have to be consistent. That's another thing. And this is what's so difficult for the students. When they're real little and they'll say to their kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, so-and-so did this, and they'll say, don't tattle, don't be a tattletale. And so they get the message that I'm not supposed to come up and tell things that are happening. So then they start thinking, that's not appropriate behavior, I can't do that. And then as they get older and bullying gets worse, they're told by that code, that unwritten code, don't be a narc, don't be a tattletale, don't be whatever they want to call it. And so they fear. They've been told by adults not to tattletale. They've been told by their peers, you'll be a narc and it'll get worse for you. And so they don't feel they have anywhere to turn. You have to also work with your staff and say, we all have to be consistent in the way that we handle this. We have to make sure that if bullying is reported, we all follow through the same way, that they're all treated the same way, we don't take it lightly, and that we let them know and assure them that we are going to support and help them. Okay, so setting up, it took us a little longer than 5 or 10 minutes, so I apologize for that, but usually it takes about 5 or 10 minutes. You just get your chairs in order. You can talk to your staff or your students ahead of time and say, would you be a volunteer? You can even work with groups if you have drama clubs and things like that, if you want them to really get into it, memorize the skits and do the skits in front of the class. It can be any way that you would like to do it. But it usually takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Each scenario is about 25 minutes, and that can include discussion. The skits are pretty quick. It gets straight to the issue of bullying. But that discussion period should never be left out. So if you don't have time, don't go, we'll do the skit, and then tomorrow we'll do the discussion period. You need to make sure you have time to do it all. Okay, so scenario 4 is the lunchroom. And I chose this one Because that's where we first, I don't know about you guys, let me know how many of you high school counselors? I should ask that first. How many schedule changes requests do you get to change your lunch? That's a big one. I will even have parents call me and say, my child doesn't want to be in that lunch hour. They don't know anyone they're having to sit with, they're uncomfortable, they're miserable, don't leave them there. And we balance our lunches and our advisories depending on students and interventions and all kinds of things to work around that advisory period. So we have a policy that we're not going to change lunch because we've already worked in all these other things, and it's not easy to do. The special ed students have to see their case managers, so lunch is like, okay, this isn't working. And one thing we did at lunch, the first year we did it, it wasn't that successful, but we learned from it, and we did it again, was we did the mix it up at lunch day. Has anyone ever done that? Did it work for you? Okay, it didn't work for us the first time. And this is what the feedback we got from the students was that we waited until October. Everyone's got their lunch group by then. They've figured out in the code where they sit, where they can't sit, and all this other stuff. And so we had it organized before we left. The first week of school, we just did what we call trivia at lunch day, and it served a lot of neat purposes. So steal it, use it. We had dum-dum suckers, and they just grabbed a sucker, whatever color they got. The table was color coordinated to that color. They went to that table, and we did it the very second day of school. And then we had the big screen, and we had trivia at lunch day, and we used our handbook. So we had just general questions like, how do you stay on red level? What do you do if you're absent? Where do you get your parking permit? Just little things like that. So the first thing we said was, okay, you have a piece of paper, everyone has to write down everyone's name at that table and bring it up here, automatic 10 points. And we had prizes, so that helped. And they immediately, what's your name, taking down names, and they started answering questions, and they brought it up, and then we gave prizes, and we played music, and we made it fun, and then we had fewer lunch requests, changes. Kids felt more comfortable. They felt like they knew someone. And so we felt like that was successful doing it in that way. So something to think about. But this scenario is about shunning and exclusion. And so I would need 4 volunteers, someone to be Felicia, Lisa, Morgan, and Rachel. Is anyone up for that?
4 girls.
Well, the guys can be girls too. It says that in the program. You can play roles, but if you would do that, go ahead and come on up. Okay, so you have your volunteers, and you're going to start with the beginning narration. So your class has started, you have your volunteers. So Breaking the Code is a story about a group of teenagers who are dealing with bullying in their schools. Several of you have been assigned characters. Some of your characters will bully others. Some will be bullied, and some will observe or stand and watch the bullying occur. It is only role-playing and in no way reflects your personal views of who you really are. Any similarities between these activities in your life are purely coincidental. Those who have been asked to play the role of the character, is there a time where you feel uncomfortable, you can excuse yourself. Okay? If you're uncomfortable but continue to play the role, I thank you for being a good sport. So, why breaking the code? The code is very real, and it's about the power structure in your school or in any school. Any power structure is built on relationships, and that's what we are exploring today. So let's begin. Welcome to Central School. Like most school systems, Central has a strict code of behavior. It is not in the school's official handbook, nor in fact is it written down anywhere. Many of the teachers aren't aware of the code's existence, but all the students know the code, and they know the unwritten rules. The code is a pecking order. It is a method of behavior designed to show that some students have certain status and others do not. Some of you will play the roles of students who know the code very well. It will be up to you to decide whether the code is broken today. Now let's meet our cast of characters. Oops, sorry. Felicia, please come stand behind the center chair. Felicia is what we sometimes call, I'm sorry, I didn't do this on purpose, the queen bee. Come over here. The social set at Central. Although the school has many cliques, Felicia is boss lady of the most popular group. When Felicia was young, she wasn't given much emotional support by her parents, but the code has given her a feeling of power that somehow makes up for what she's always felt she was missing. She sets the standards for what to wear, whom to speak to, and most importantly, which students are important. Felicia is also a skilled actress in that very few of the teachers even suspect that she has the power. When she's around teachers and administrators, she's the perfect high school girl. The big thing at Central is tennis, and Felicia is the captain of the tennis team. She even designed the outfit specifically to make her own figure look good. Felicia has several runners who carry messages back and forth and keep her informed. Perhaps her most trusted runner is Lisa. Felicia, take a power symbol. So, can you give them a power symbol?
Oh, sorry, just
That's it. Oh, you did? Okay. Thanks.
Look at you.
Okay. So you can paper clip that on your name tag. Okay. Lisa, please come up and sit in the chair on the right here. Lisa never thought she had much going for her in junior high, so when she got to high school and Felicia asked her to an overnight at her house, she was thrilled. They shared a lot of secrets that night, and from that point on, Lisa knew that she had it made at Central. Lisa hates tennis, but she joined the tennis team because Felicia told her to do so. Lisa feels that without the code at Central, she would be nothing. Morgan, right? Morgan and Rachel. Did I leave out Rachel, right? You have Rachel? Okay. Morgan, come stand behind Lisa. Morgan spends 2 weeks with her dad and then 2 weeks with her mom all year long. Both parents buy her pretty much whatever she wants in hopes that she'll someday choose to live with one parent exclusively. Felicia may decide who's who at Central, but it's her friend Morgan who makes things happen. Her grades are just average, and she depends on Lisa to help her with her homework. In fact, on some assignments, Lisa does her homework completely. For Lisa, this is a small price to pay to be in Morgan and Felicia's group. Morgan, please take a power symbol. Rachel, please have a seat on the side of the characters. Bystanders are often the determining factor in the power given to cliques and bullies. With their approval, or at least their silence, the powerful are often stripped of their ability to intimidate. Bystanders, you all know the people sitting in the chairs and those standing behind them. None of you have much contact with them, but you know their names, and they know you. And you all know the code at Central. Here it is. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Yes. So we're going to use the microphone. Otherwise, you won't be on the video and they won't hear you. Okay, so we're going to start with Stephanie. Where's Stephanie? Oh, I'm on the wrong one. My fault.
Yeah, but there's not a Stephanie.
Did I miss Stephanie? Oh. All right, you be Stephanie.
I missed that.
Okay. What did I do with the other skits? I'm sorry. This is 4, right? Mm-hmm. Scenario 4. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. It's lunch hour at Central High.
I haven't really found a group to sit with at lunch, so I usually go to the back of the line so I won't have as much time to eat.
Stephanie, you get a balance symbol as you weigh the options of choosing a table. Lunchtime is a prime time for bullying to occur. Why do you think lunchtime is a prime time for bullying to occur? There's not a lot of structure, exactly. Thank you.
I made Morgan mad this morning when I didn't have our math assignment done for her to copy. In fact, I'm often a target of humiliation if I don't do exactly what Felicia and Morgan want. Morgan even told Felicia and her group that I might not be eligible for the tennis match this weekend because I didn't have our math assignment done. As I walk up to Felicia and her gang sitting at their usual table at the back of the cafeteria, it's very obvious they don't want me to sit with them. So I guess I'm going to go sit by myself near the cash register.
Morgan, you get an angry symbol for getting mad when Lisa didn't have the assignment done. Bullies try to manipulate and threaten others to do what they want. They may shun or exclude when bullying others. Felicia and Morgan, you get a PU symbol for shunning Lisa to get what you want. And Lisa, you are getting a powerless symbol sorry about that. You're getting a powerless symbol for feeling humiliated if you don't do what Felicia and Morgan want. You need to have a seat on the floor because the code at Central has lowered your status. Thank you. Why would bullies turn on their own group? Why do you think bullies would do that? To reinforce their power? Very good.
By the time I get my lunch, the cafeteria tables are nearly filled, and one of the few places available is beside Lisa. I stand in front of Lisa for a moment, and then I sit down across from her.
I look up at Stephanie and then glance back up at Morgan, Felicia, and their group.
What makes this situation hurtful? What would make this situation hurtful if you were the one?
Because they're ostracizing her and she's the one doing
Yeah, things are out of balance for her. This was her group, this was her comfort zone, and now not only is it just happening, but it's happening in front of everyone in the lunchroom. And so she's very aware that everyone else is also aware what is happening to her.
I'm one of the last ones through the lunch line. I saw what has just happened. It's nothing new, though. I see it happening all the time. I've never been a member of any particular group, so last year I quit trying and concentrated on getting prepared for college. As a result, my grades have improved drastically. However, I also know that making Felicia's group angry won't help my day go any better. Where should I sit?
Rachel, you get a balance symbol. You decide the risk. You decide the risk of making that choice. Okay. If Rachel, I lost my place, I'm sorry. So you get the balance symbol. Now Rachel, you have a decision to make. Would you like to make your own choice handling the situation, or would you like to draw from a decision card?
Draw from the decision card.
Okay. Whoops. The other ones.
Get up and find another place to sit.
Okay. She decided to get up and find another place to sit. So, how would that affect what just happened? She just reinforced the code. A lot of times bystanders think, okay, I'm not really involved, I'm not really doing anything, I'm avoiding it, everybody tells me to ignore it or avoid it, and these are discussions you would have with your students, but by that action alone, this power just got stronger. Does that make sense? Okay. So, what symbols, and this is what you would start discussing with your students, what symbols would you be giving to all these people? They would get, and have your students answer, they would get more power symbols. Okay? Okay. Does everyone get the idea of what we're doing here? Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and get to the discussion part because I think we're going to be out of time. I appreciate all of your help. You can stay here if you want. Well, your discussion questions are things like this. So, Lisa, okay. Let's put ourselves in Lisa's position. How do you think Lisa felt being a victim of bullying, especially by her own friends? Betrayed? Confused? Anybody else? Embarrassed? Inferior? And these are alone. These are all great words because then you start having discussions with your students. Have you ever been in this situation? Have you felt this way? What did you do? What would have helped you? Okay. Are Felicia and Morgan really being her friends when they treat her this way? It's good
We're
to...
only friends when she can do something for us or when she serves our purpose, it sounds like.
Yeah. Only friends when she can do something for us or help us serve their purpose, those kind of things. So this is a good time you can actually talk to your students about what's a true friend. Let's talk about a healthy friendship relationship. What or would have been the most helpful thing for others to do for Lisa?
Stand up to us.
Show support.
Stand up, show support.
Just sit with her and talk with her and engage her.
Okay, if these people would have said, you know what, it's a risk, but I'm going to stay and I'm going to sit and I'm going to talk to her, it would have made a huge difference right there, not only to her, but into what's happening within the culture. Okay? What was or would have been the most harmful thing for others to do to Lisa?
To do kind of what her decision card said to do.
Yeah, to do what her decision card said, to actually just leave her out there hanging. Lisa, what did you think?
I agree. I think that sort of what makes the point is, one of the things that makes the point is probably having people on the different levels physically. So it's not just that I'm an adult. I think it would feel awkward to our kids, too, to be sitting at a lower level. So I think that emphasizes a little bit the power dynamic, the power inequality. So, yes, that feels belittling.
Thank you, and I'm glad you said that because students did say that to me also. It wasn't the fact that they had to go and sit on the floor. It was that level of power, that realization of power. Okay, put yourself in Morgan's position. How do you think Morgan felt to exclude Lisa at lunch? Yeah.
As the bully, obviously, I was feeding into the power dynamic that Felicia set. If I was a bad person, I wouldn't feel bad about kicking Lisa to the floor. But if I had some heart as Morgan, I would maybe start rethinking what I was doing. But a lot of times kids that are in the power dynamic don't want to change the dynamic because they're not being bullied. They're being one of the enforcers of bullying.
Okay, this is a good point because we're like, okay, we know how to work with our victims and talk to our victims and help our victims. Let's talk to our bully. What would it feel like if you lost that power? Where would you be?
I'd be on the floor with Lisa.
And what does that power give to you that you're not getting? If you were not bullying, what would that power not be giving you that you need?
That acceptance and love that I'm probably not getting at home.
Okay, so how can we help her in that area? When Vince talked this morning about going upstream, you do your survey, you find things out. As you start to find things out with these students, this would probably be a good time to say, I'd like for you to work with your counselor. And let's find healthy, positive ways for you to get that acceptance and attention that you're not getting so you don't continue to pick on and bully the students in the school. Okay? Let's put ourselves in Stephanie's position. Do you think it was hard for Stephanie to sit at Lisa's table knowing Felicia and Morgan were watching her?
I think it's just another day in the life of Stephanie. She's always on the floor. It's nothing different for her.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, so how can we help the day in the life of Felicia get better, or Stephanie get better? Okay, have you ever gone into the lunchroom and I had a couple of students, one was a senior, took a book in there, sat down, read the book every single day, by herself. Freshman girl, sitting by herself, reading a book. So I went over to the senior and I said, can I ask you a favor? I said, I have a freshman and she does the same thing you're doing here. She's reading a book. Do you mind if I just ask her if she could come sit at your table and you both can just read your books? And that way she doesn't have to sit alone. And she's like, okay, sure, that's fine. So I went over to the freshman and I said, hey, would you be interested in going over to this table? She's reading her book too. And she's like, okay. And they went over there. First 3 days, they didn't say a word to each other. Read the book, read the book. By the second week, they said a few words to each other. By the third week, they were sitting there talking to one another. So I think sometimes going into that lunchroom and helping those people, because sometimes they just don't know how to go up and ask someone, do you mind if I just sit at your table? I'm reading a book too, but can I just sit at the table and read so I'm not sitting alone? They don't always know how to do that. I have she's a young woman now, my daughter, who I thought was very outgoing and very well adjusted, and she came from a small school and went to the University of Illinois, which, as we know, is huge. And she was the only one in her class to go there. So she got there, and we move her in, and we go buy all the snacks and all that stuff. And 2 weeks later, she called me, and she said, I'm out of snacks. I said, how can you already be out of snacks? She said, because I haven't been to the cafeteria yet. I was like, wow, okay, this is at college level. How uncomfortable is it to go somewhere, get your food, and sit down by yourself? And we're not always teaching our young people how do we approach someone and ask permission or invite ourselves to sit with them. Or teach our leaders to say, hey, come over and join our table. We're not teaching our kids to do that. Okay, so Rachel's position. What was it like for Rachel to watch Lisa being shunned?
Something that I wanted to ignore because I didn't want it to happen to me. I just wanted to get through my day and not have to deal with someone else's problems.
And that's so true. And that's most of our kids. And I think this is where we really need to start and say, okay, as bystanders, we can make a difference. You can make a difference in the culture of your school. You can make people say, I want to get up and go to school. I want to be there because I know you're going to be there and support me. I know you're not going to be cruel to me. I know you're not going to let me be shunned. And I don't think we often see how important that role is. So then we discuss and talk about the role of the bystander and how important that is. And, it is a risk. Putting yourself out there is a risk. But you're also telling us that you want the culture of your school to be different. And that's where it's got to start. And so that's when you really, really, really start talking about bystanders and giving options and going through. And each scenario is different, so it's going to touch on different things. As an audience, they can participate by answering questions, giving examples, writing things on paper. You do the post-test. They gave feedback. So you're getting a lot of great conversations, and you're getting a lot of insight to what's happening in your school. So this is the program. I think we went over time, and I apologize. If you have any questions, it is available through the University of Illinois. If you'd like more information, it's all on the PowerPoint, or email or contact me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Have a good day.